I was in the submarine service in World War II. For 3 years I was in the service, for 3 years. And that's where I got aboard ship, was in Midway. And the first patrol I made was up in the Oshkosh Sea aboard the Pom-Pom. I was excited to be aboard ship. You know, everybody wanted to be aboard ship. Everybody didn't get to go aboard ship. And so I showed up down there with my sea bag and everything. And the first thing they did is give me a duty to do, mess cooking. That's the first thing you do when you go aboard. If you don't have a rate, that's the first thing you do is mess cook. And so I did my 30 days mess cooking on that patrol to the Oshkosh. But we would run into several ships, but we sunk them, and we were having trouble with our torpedoes. You know, we'd fire the damn thing and it'd go out and then it'd make a big circle and here it'd come back home. And we spent a lot of time when we were firing into this convoy, we spent a lot of time dodging the ships, the torpedo, or the destroyers, Japanese destroyers. Well, you're scared to hell. You know that they're going to drop the charges and you're going to hear the charges come, but there ain't anything you can do about it. And you rig for silent running. Everything is shut everything off. When they dump a depth charge on you, you can hear the detonator and the depth charge go off. You hear the depth charge down through there, and then you hear, and the the detonator goes off, and then everything blows. So we got out of that deal, and that's when we came back and went to the States. And then when we came back, we went on this wolf pack thing with the other two boats, and that's where we had our biggest problem. We were lined up to shoot, and we got into this Japanese convoy, and we were lined up to shoot. The captain is in the conning tower with everything, and they're getting all their stuff lined up with the torpedoman. And the guy, the diving officer, he dipped the scope. And he says, "Tom, damn it, you dipped the scope. I can't see, and I'm not going to fire." These other two boats were probably lined up, and they sunk some boats, but one of them got real depth charged pretty hard. And about 4 o'clock in the morning, because they'd gone by us and we were just killing time, I guess, and we were ready to dive for the day. But there's a latch mechanism on the hatch. When the hatch is open for the conning tower for people to go out, then it hooks and holds the latch up. There's a lanyard on it, and when you pull it, it unhooks, and the hatch comes down. But the hatch didn't come down, and water was coming in, and we flooded the control room, and the captain come in up the hatch, and he went up through all that water coming down. He went there and got topside and got that damn hatch closed, and we got back on the surface. So we had, I guess, water up to the floor or up to the deck in the control room. Didn't go to the forward battery or the after battery, but dang close, which we would have been in real deep trouble, because salt water and sulfuric acid it's not a good mixture. And so we started dipping water out, and we opened the after battery hatch, and they were dipping water in pans and buckets and throwing it over the side until we could. That's a lot of water that we dipped out. All day it took to dip that water out. We didn't have any pumps then, because all of our main pumps or in the bilges in the control room. So, and they were drowned out, so we didn't have anything. And of course, then that killed our radar and our radio and everything else. We had no contact with anybody, nothing. And the second night then, the captain said, well, guys, he said, we got to be able to dive this thing because we won't be able to get back through the pass if we can't dive. So we're going to take her down. We know we can take it down, but we don't know if it'll come back up. So everybody be on the lookout. So everybody was on their position that they should be on. And we dove the boat, and he stayed down for 15, 20 minutes and said, okay, we're going to see if we can get her back up. And we got it back to the surface, but we never could get quite up because we didn't have the low pressure blowers and everything. We couldn't get blowed up to top, and we were pretty low in the water. And the third day, the second or third day, the wind was blowing and it was stormy, and the water came over and flooded our main engine intake. The main engine intake is a big tube that's up in the conning tower, and it get air into the engine rooms, and it's piped in. Well, water came in, and we weren't running the forward room, we were running the after room, and that was my position, was the after room. And I went over and pushed the latch. There's a latch. When you push it, it trips the latch or the hatch and closes, keeps the water from coming in. And you look down there, and we had enough water in the bilges of the engine room that it was just about that far from the shaft of the engine into the generator before the generator, which generated power to the maneuvering room. And so we said, oh, you don't know. And we'd been using 5-gallon buckets for toilets, and we had those in the bilges full of fuel oil and Lysol and poop and everything else. And that was all floating in all this damn water down there. So that was one dirty, greasy, scary ding mess. The captain said, well, guys, we got to go home someplace because we can't roll around out here too long. And he said, I think tonight, and it was rainy, stormy and everything, and he said, we're going to go through tonight. We got about halfway through, and here come 4 Japanese destroyers. And we had no radar, we had nothing. We got close enough so we could see the daggone destroyers. And so we dove, and they boxed up, and they run like the game that you play, corner to corner. They run a couple of those and dropped 3 or 4 depth charges, not very many, and took off running like heck because they didn't know how many submarines was out there. And we ended up staying down. We stayed down 18 hours. What happens with 18 hours is you can strike a match, but it won't flame. It'll just turn black. It's like if you're talking, like you and I are talking now, it's like if you were running a mile, you're really gasping for air. So if you didn't have a watch, then you went to your bunk and laid down and didn't do any moving around, didn't do any talking or anything like that. Captain said, well, closest place is Midway. And he said, we better go to Midway because he said that's the only place that somebody won't shoot at you while you're coming in.
The most effective United States carrier-borne air armada ever sent into action prepares the surprise blow against the powerful Japanese naval base at Truk.
And went back and sent us to Truk. Truk, at that time, they had pretty well isolated Truk. They didn't have anything to coming in and coming out, and they had no airplanes, supposedly. And So the airport would fly over and bomb truck and just harass them, shoot things up and drop bombs and that sort of thing. And they had an anti-aircraft gun. That's where we were, off of that patrol, and we'd had our minor overhaul out to Camp Daly. Well, we were getting ready. I have no idea where we were going, but we were going on another patrol that afternoon. About 1,500 was supposed to break out of there. And everybody was in line of small stores, draw small stores, cigarettes and everything. And Harry Truman come on to give his little speech that the war was over.
I have received this afternoon a message from the Japanese government in reply to the message forwarded to that government by the Secretary of State on August 11th. I deem this reply a full acceptance of the Potsdam Declaration, which specifies the unconditional surrender of Japan.
Everybody was whooping and hollering and running, and I said, I stood in this damn line to get my small stores. I'm glad the war's over, but I'm going to get my small stores right now when there's nobody in line. And that's about all the experience I had in the Navy. We didn't sink a hell of a lot of ships, but we had a lot of fun.